Somalia is holding its indirect presidential elections after a 15-month delay. There are concerns, though, that the process has been marred by financial, legal and security challenges. That country hasn't successfully held a direct one-person, one-vote election since its democratically elected government was overthrown by the military back in 1969. The absence of a suitable legal framework for this year's polls has also contributed to the delays. Let's make sense of this for you now and speak to a security and governance expert on Somalia. That's Dr. Mohamed Husein Gaas, who's also the director of the Raad Peace Research Institute based in Mogadishu. Doc, it's great to have you on the program. Thank you so much for making time. Let's begin with some context. We're told this is an indirect election. The last direct election was held in 1969 or before then. What's the difference and why is that important?
I think it's important in a number of reasons. First, Somalia has been having a kind of very prolonged crisis since 1991 when its central government has been overthrown. And since then, you know, Somalis and international actors have been trying to recreate state institutions. But then, however, for the last five governments, that is since 2004, there has been elections. But then they were mainly indirect elections, meaning that population were not able to vote or conduct what it's called one man, one vote. Rather, what we had is what we had and continue to have in Somalia, as far as today is concerned, is an indirect election where clan elders, tribal elders, representing their respective constituencies, select parliamentarians. And this election is very important because of, you know, either the country succeeds in deepening its democratic trajectory in the future, or either, you know, we may have a continuation of crisis in case a certain candidate win this election.
Mm-hmm. Help us better place how people in Somalia are likely to be viewing this election in a context where, as I've already mentioned, it's been marred by several challenges, including financial, legal, and security issues.
I think people are excited because we have to remember this election should have been held by February 2021. So now they are delayed more than a year and few months. And the fact is that we are able to hold it, I think it is a bit of an excitement, but it has not been without challenges. We had a standoff between the president of the federal government and the regional states aligned with the opposition, where the opposition and some of the regional states like Jubaland and Puntland have been trying to push election forward, while the president has been trying to create delays and extensions. And his argument has been, we need one man, one vote election.
Right. This is a clan-based election, and that's why, in part, it's an indirect poll. You say people there in Somalia are excited because of just how long it's taken us to get here. Has that translated in the participation rate, though? What do we know or expect to be the voter turnout?
Yeah, I think there are, if we are talking about the candidates, there are a number of candidates, including 3 former presidents, 1 prime minister, and several ministers, all of them standing as a candidate. So those are front runners. But then, except the current president, which his term has ended a year and a few months ago, and who is standing as a candidate, is one camp, and then all the opposition, including 2 former presidents, are on one side. So in this election, what we will have is shifting alliances, you know, deals within candidates, and all of this. Probably the election today will have several rounds. First round, and then in the second round, only 4 candidates can proceed, the ones that get the highest number of votes. Then within that 4, probably there will be an alliances between them based on political deals, based on political issues or communalities or orientation of different candidates.
Somalia, sadly, like many countries on the continent, has suffered a civil war in the past. But, there are still perceptions that there is still an environment of robust political engagement. I wonder whether or not you agree with that, and whether you feel that that does give the opposition an opportunity to actually clinch a victory here.
Yeah, I think this is a very important point that many analysts often overlook. And the reason is we often heard in the news, the crisis in Somalia, terrorist attacks, all of these, so many problems. But then that makes us forget Somalia was the first country in Africa that adopted a democratic system. And it has been democratic from 1960, when it took its independence, until 1969, when the military of the country has overthrown the government. And now it is trying to get back its path. This means, there are certain values embedded within Somali society, or part of the culture, which is, as you said, very robust political discussions, a kind of values that, more or less are very democratic. People, whether in politics or in other aspects of society, are able to discuss. And by the way, Somalia, the opposition has been, has won for the last 3 to 4 elections. That's since 2004 in Somalia, meaning that, democracy is taking root in Somalia. But also, if we compare Somalia to the other countries in the region, I think it fares far better than many of the countries in the region in terms of the ability of the opposition to win the kind of lively discussions.
Yeah. It's on that optimistic note that we'll leave it. Dr. Mohamed Husein Gaas, thanks very much indeed for speaking to us. Dr. Mohamed is a security and governance expert on Somalia, also the director of the Raad Peace Research Institute, which is based in Mogadishu.